Hey, this is Robert, and today I'm going to show you how to use some of our Virtual Studio 12 backgrounds. These are some of our latest backgrounds. We've tried to set up a bunch of different settings and angles and that kind of thing that you can choose from, and so yeah, that's basically what we've done. Today I'm going to show you. This is the second tutorial in this tutorial series, and this particular one is made up of a kind of a stand-up scene. Which is actually stage right of the main studio, virtual studio. I'm going to play through it here. I'll show you kind of what we're creating. You see we have a main talent person here and a animated monitor that comes down. We've done a little bit of color correction on this background layer to change it to a blue instead of what it was. It was a red, and you can kind of see the way the scene plays out. And so first, what I'm going to do is I will delete everything that I've got so far in this tutorial. And so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to, in my scene, or in my project layer here, I'm going to go File, New, Sequence. And so there you choose your resolution, frame rate, what have you, and we'll just call this one tutorial 2. Go away. Okay. All right. And the next thing we're going to do is import the footage that we have. And so I'll show you here. We've kind of got all of our pieces of footage set up. We have this little piece of stock footage. We're going to use this B-roll footage, and then we're going to use this standing 3 no monitor background right there. So we'll drag that in to the scene. All right. So the first thing that we're going to do is I'm going to bring our talent layer, our talent down onto this third studio or third timeline layer right here, and you can kind of see that she's just shot in front of a green screen. So if you right click on the layer, you can hit rename. So I'm just going to rename this one talent. So we have her there. And the second thing we're going to do is apply a chroma key effect to remove the green in her layer, or in her scene there. And the way you do that is you go over to your effects library, and you can go to video effects and find keying and all that stuff. Kind of a quick way that I found that you can also do it is if you click in this little search bar right here, and you start typing in the word key, K-E-Y, it'll start bringing up all the different keying options and that kind of thing, all the effects that have K-E-Y in it. Ultra Key is the key plugin that I like the best. The chroma key that's built in, or I guess the other, it's just called chroma key plugin, is okay. But and I'll show you here real quick. If I apply it, here's the effects controls. If I select the green in the scene, you can see that it kind of does. It's just kind of a rough job of removing the key in the scene. That's really, really jaggedy and really harsh. And so let me delete that effect. If I use the Ultra Key, this is a little bit of a fancier plugin. And if I drop that down, this is the effects controls panel for this piece of footage. You have to have it selected. And then in your effects controls, you'll see your Ultra Key, and then you can drop it down so you can see all the settings. You select the eyedropper tool, click on it once, go to your scene, click in the scene on the green or blue or whatever chroma key background you have, and it will pop it right out. And it does a pretty decent job of removing it and making a nice edge along our talent here. You can do some cleanup and adjustments and that kind of thing and fine-tune it a little bit, but for this example I'm just going to kind of leave it as is. You can also, there's a number of different settings that are just kind of default settings, so kind of a relaxed key, aggressive, or custom. And relaxed is just less harsh of a key. Aggressive is just that it just tries to get as much of that green as it possibly can. So I'll actually just go ahead and hit aggressive, and you can see that it cleans up a good bit of that that key around the talent right there. The next animation that I'm going to bring, or the next piece I'm going to do, is I'm going to bring the Virtual Studio layer down onto the timeline. I'll put it on this second layer here, and then I'll right-click on the layer name, rename it to Studio. And you can see as we get it in there that she automatically gets composited on top of the Virtual Studio. And she's actually a little bit tall here. There's a little bit not enough headroom. I don't like her placement, so I'm actually going to move her down just a little bit. So if you select the talent layer, go to Motion, and then Position, you can use this little slider here to move your clip around in the scene. And so I might move her just a little bit hair closer there, a little bit down, right there like that. And so you can kind of see the way it comes in there just a little bit. Next thing we're going to do is I'm going to apply a color correction to this background, or to the Virtual Studio background, so that we can change the color of some of the highlights in this animation and that kind of thing, and just give it, make it a little bit more customized. So here, what I'll do is I'll delete the key out there. I'll say what we're going to change basically is the HLS setting. If you go to Video Effects and then Color Correction, there is a color balance effect with HLS in the name. And if you click that, drag it onto your studio layer, and then select your studio layer and go to your effect controls. You can come to Color Balance HLS, and then that gives you hue, lightness, and saturation. And on the hue, we'll just change this, start kind of dragging this, and basically it changes the hue of the scene that you're working in. And so I'm going to make it kind of a blue color, because I think that looks nice. And you'll notice it also changes the color of this chroma, but that really doesn't matter because we can chroma out any color in a scene. So if it changes the color of this animated monitor, then we'll just key out this purple color, and that will allow us to put a video right behind that monitor there. All right, so that's what we're going to do next, actually, is apply another key to the studio layer to knock out this color in this main monitor area. So go back over to my effects library and look up key, once again, K-E-Y, and go down to the Ultra Key plugin, and then we'll drag it over to the standing monitor there, and then also select it, come over to your Effects tab, select the eyedropper for Ultra Key, select the purple area within your studio there, and it knocks it really nicely and cleanly right out of there. So the last step is to place a piece of footage in this animated monitor area. And the way that you do that is you grab your piece of B-roll footage and drag it onto the final layer, the bottom layer here. I'm going to right-click on that layer, rename it B-roll. And so you can see that it shows up right when we place it in there, but it still needs to be scaled and kind of positioned into place. So since we're just working with this one layer, I'm going to lock down the other two layers, and you can do that in their layer settings right there. Just hit toggle lock. And that way we cannot move these layers and mess with them while we're messing with the B-roll layer there. So now if I go to Motion and Scale, I can scale down this B-roll layer, and then if I actually go into the monitor area, I can go in and reposition and kind of scale it up. And I've found it's kind of easiest to kind of scale it to about the size of the monitor like that. And then what we're going to do is apply a basic 3D perspective plugin. So we'll go back over to our effects library, type in 3D. Under Video Effects Perspective, there's a basic 3D effect that you can apply. So drag it, put it on your B-roll layer, And then now we can swivel this monitor footage to kind of just, somewhat mimic the angle of that monitor there. Doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. Once you kind of get it in place, we can scale it back up a little bit and then click in here and kind of position it the way you want it. So it's not going to be perfectly perfect, but it'll be good enough for what we're doing right here. And so now you get your final scene. We'll click through to play it. Monitor drops down. You've got your main presenter here, and then your animation going, just like that. So another question that we get a good bit is if you have a scene, and obviously most of your scenes are going to be longer than the maybe 20, 30-second clips that we have for these virtual studio backgrounds. How do you extend, if you're only working with this one clip, if you've only purchased this one clip, how do you extend it out for your project? And that's actually a really good question. Basically, the way that you can do it, if this is there's actually multiple ways of doing it, but if you just have this one clip and you want to extend it out further, what you can do is bring your time slider down to where the animation settles, where your monitor animation settles, right there, and then with the layer selected and your video footage selected, go to Sequence, Razor Tracks, and that will cut the animation right after the monitor comes and settles. Okay, and then you want to go till the animation gets removed. So right before that, right there, and then we'll razor there as well. And now you have your end animation right here. And so what you can do is you can copy this piece of animation, this central piece of the animation, which is just the loop, basically. You can do Control-C or Edit, Copy, and then Edit, Paste. And so you can do Control-C, Control-V. You can actually just, once you start copying and pasting, you can just paste it through like that. And then you have your animation, your ending animation right there as well. So it just goes right in, boom, and then the animation goes away like that. Of course, you have these transitions right here where the background animation is still going, but you need to kind of smooth those out so that it's not so obvious that you're using a background loop. And the best way to do that is just to go over to the video transitions area in your effects controls here, do a cross dissolve, and put a cross dissolve between each one. And you can extend the cross dissolve a little bit more if you want to make it a little bit less. You don't want to go that way. This way maybe. So you go to your cross dissolve, and then you drag a cross dissolve onto each segment. And then that way, you have your animation come down. That way, you have your animation come down, and you can transition between the different events so that it just kind of stays down. And especially when you have a piece of talent, especially when you have your talent in the scene as well, there's not much. You don't really see that transition too much. And then you can basically just loop it for as long as you need, and then place this last piece on when you need to come back out, and then that's the end of your shot right there. The other way to do that is we also have this background as a background by itself without the animated monitor, and so you can have the animation in the background without the monitor, and then we also have this monitor as its own separate layer, and so you could take the background, and it's a perfect loop. You just loop it back to back to back to back to back, and then you place the animation, the monitor animation, on another layer, and place that in the scene as well, and then that actually gives you even a little bit more control over the final animation.